Bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
All right, welcome, Fade to Black, Bespoke Radio for the masses. How you doing? It's Thursday, April 27th, 116 days into the new year, just 249 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? It is Thursday. We've got a special presentation tonight. Yes, it's Thursday. It's Fader night. All of that comes into play. We have Jon Rappoport here with his No More Fake Newsroom in a few short minutes. But also tonight, we have very special guest. Stephen Huff is here. And we're going to be talking about communication to the other side through his Wonder Box. Huff Paranormal. It's going to be one of those shows, so just buckle up. What a great week we've had here on Fade to Black. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Very simple. Gregg Housh finally did. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Facebook, YouTube, everything is Fade to Black. You know what to do. Just go follow, like, and subscribe right over there on our website. The buttons are right there. Just go and click. The sandbox is hashtag F2B on Twitter. We don't bite, so let's do that. Get ready. Any questions or comments during the show tonight? Hashtag F2BQ. You can also email throughout the show. I will get to as many as I can. The email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Let me get a few short things out of the way really quick. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. We have two different versions of things for you to subscribe. You can subscribe to the podcast. We have 650 archive shows, custom apps, Apple, Android, all platforms. Just go to the Apple Store, go to Google Store, iTunes, search Fade to Black, download the apps. There you go. Okay? And then head over to Libsyn, get your subscription. It's just $2 a month. We update it every single day. There you go. Simple, easy. Or you can become an official Fadernaut. Just head over to the membership section on our site. You get the bunker cam, you get commercial-free downloadable archives, and if you get the Game Changer, you can get all of that Fade to Black gear. Oh, look at Sal. Look at that. Sal just posted a picture of him with his Fade to Black hat. That'll get a retweet every time, won't it? There you go. Sal, looking good, brother. Look at that. That hat was made for you. That almost looks photoshopped. That's so good. I don't usually wear a hat, but when I do, it's my Fade to Black cap. There you go. Sal, thank you so much for that. And let me click like. Follow us on Twitter. There you go. You want to see Sal's picture. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Now, all of our sponsors, Life Change Tea, GetTheTea.com, River Moon Coffee, Studio Dome Speakers, all of the advertisers that advertise on the show, visit all of them. That's how this show runs. It's simple. Click on their banners over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. And when you do, there are promo codes there for discounts and free shipping. That's how you support the show. It's really that easy, all right? Now, really quick, Contact in the Desert's coming up May 19th through the 22nd, Joshua Tree, California. spoke to the good people over at Contact in the Desert today. They are very excited, gearing up for, what is the biggest event of the year and for ufology. And I'm just so happy. Now, River Moon Coffee is going to be there. They've got a full-on installation that's going on. And their location is killer. We are in the same spot that we were last year, the Fade to Black booth, which is right there at the entrance of the sanctuary. So that's where we'll be. We occupy that corner. And everything is good to go. Okay, very excited about this. We have 3 big events that we are doing that weekend. Friday night, of course, Fade to Black is broadcasting live on Friday night. Saturday night, I'll be hosting the Forbidden Archaeology panel at 7 p.m. in the amphitheater. Sunday night, I'll be hosting the Disclosure panel in the amphitheater, also at 7 p.m. Okay, so we've got a full weekend. All of your information that you need, tickets, info, lodging, food, everything that you need, just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Contact in the Desert banner. It's right there. Okay? Very excited. It's coming up. It's in a second, I'm going to be saying that this is 2 weeks away. I cannot believe it. Also, coming up, we will get everything up on the website this weekend. But July 4th weekend, we're going up to ECETI. That's right. We're heading up to Oregon. We're going to ECETI Ranch, James Gilliland and company. I'll be speaking a couple of times that weekend, which is going to be great. It's going to be fun. Looking forward to it. But more importantly is the evenings that we are going to be spending up there. So go to the ECETI website. I think it's ECETI.org. Go to ECETI and check out the information that is there. We will be, like I said, making the announcements over the next couple of days. All right, so really quick, I want to say happy birthday to Ace Frehley. He is 66 years old today. And on this day in history, in 4977 BC, the universe is created, according to Johann Kepler. And here's a quick fader fact. Hamsters can store half of their own weight in food in their cheeks. Kind of like me. Now, all day today, the breaking news happened about 4 hours ago, maybe 5, maybe a little more than that, but it's been fluid all day. Award-winning journalist Barrett Brown was rearrested and taken into custody today. Tomorrow, he was scheduled to be interviewed for a PBS documentary. Now, I immediately, today, the first thing as this news started to break, I reached out to Gregg Housh, and I needed Greg to verify things, which he immediately did. At that point, he was actually he was in his studio doing the Gregg Housh show, and they were talking about Barrett. And yes, Greg confirmed everything. It's a sad day. But on the phone with me right now is the one and only Gregg Housh. And Greg, welcome back to the program.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, Greg, sad day, man. Now, when you got the news, I was watching your Twitter feed, and my heart sank. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. I'm in shock. Now, I know that you've got more information about what's going on. It has been fluid today, but just let me say this, and I'm going to say this directly, and don't mess around with your answer. Is this the feds screwing with a journalist about free speech?
Absolutely, yes, it is.
How does that make you feel? I mean, after everything that you've gone through, all of us are trying to fight the good fight. Barrett, Barrett, an aggressive guy, a funny guy, but never held back, but a brilliant journalist, a brilliant writer, one of the most published and read writers in this country, and certainly with our generation, he was admired and looked up to. But he has been slapped around. This is a journalist being arrested. There's something needs to be done.
The one thing that you always have to remember about this prosecution is that their entire prosecution of Barrett Brown rested on him sharing a link to data that was hacked out of the company Stratfor.
Right.
And the worst part about them putting him in prison for sharing this link, just a hyperlink to a website, was that this link had already been shared by multiple other journalists and multiple other articles. And in fact, it was actually linked to from the CNN article before he shared it with someone. And they went after him just because it was him, and they found a way to get him.
And threatened him with 100 years just to get him to plead out.
105 years worth of charges is what they were getting him with. And here's something your users should find scary. The actual argument they made in court was that because he linked to this data, again, the same data that many other journalists had linked to, because they were going through it to write stories, which they are legally allowed to do. We have a First Amendment. But the thing that they said in court was that because he linked to it, that amounted to possession. And because this file at the other end of that link that everyone else was sharing had the entire Stratfor database, which included credit cards, that amounted to Barrett Brown having millions of stolen credit cards on his computer because he linked to a file somewhere that might have had those in them, which, of course, we all know means he didn't have them on his computer. He hadn't even seen them yet, and he did not do the hack. But they used that and they were successful with that argument in court against him.
Have they officially, at this point, okay, what's the latest? And I want to thank you. I know that you've done your show today, and you've got an early start tomorrow. Thank you for coming on, to share this with our audience. But what is the latest? Have the feds actually announced officially why they arrested him?
We have no official answer as to why they arrested him yet. His lawyer, Jay Lederman, is waiting on formal notice. The word from the Bureau of Prisons over the phone earlier today, where they wouldn't give anything on the record and they would not give any actual formal, reading of any law he might have broken or anything else, was that he was supposed to ask permission before doing any interviews, and that was a violation of his parole and that they were taking him back and he was no longer on parole. And what's interesting about that is for weeks he had been asking them to prove it, to give him any information, any paperwork, anything official that said he actually legally had to ask permission for this. And they could produce nothing because it's not true.
Right.
But because of the way the the parole system works in our country, they can just say the word violation and instantly they own you. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Now
that's what they did here.
Yeah, and he's been out there publicly doing interviews, and why didn't they just come and grab him the first time? I mean, he's a very public figure, and they're watching his every step and his email and his cell phones and everything else.
Every movie mix they're watching, and I'll tell you, what's interesting about the timing is he's been doing a lot of interviews, and it's not for nobodies. I mean, The Intercept and, an MSNBC interview and, all these others that he's done since he's been out. He's been out for months.
Right.
And he went straight to work at D Magazine. I mean, he went right back into journalism. And they did nothing to him. They didn't approach him. But the last 2 days he spent working as an interview subject for a Vice show, a very, very well done set of interviews, as I understand it. And tomorrow he was supposed to be recording for a documentary that PBS is doing. And they got him before he could record this documentary. And I think that's specifically what they wanted to stop, because he was going to talk very harshly and very honestly about the Bureau of Prisons.
And this is the thing. It's a journalist that has been out there it's writing and speaking about free speech. It boggles the mind. It's like they're messing with the wrong guy. And Barrett Brown, of anybody that I know, is not ever going to shut up.
Oh, no, there's no backing down in Barrett. We had this conversation a few years ago, actually many years ago now, long before his arrest or anything, where I said, look, you're going at these people in a way where they're going to have no choice but to use their power against you. They're going to arrest you. You're going to end up in prison. And he just looked me dead in the eyes and said, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Yep.
And he had no care in the world. He just knew that he wasn't going to stop coming at them, that they had no right to treat people that the way that they were treating him and everyone else. And even with this, there's going to be no slowdown.
Now, also today, nobody knew his location, and I was trying to chase that down right before the show tonight. I guess you found out where he's at. Where is he?
He's at the same FNC he came out of. If you go to the Free Barrett Brown Twitter feed, you'll see a direct link to a location finder that shows you everything. You'll also see a few tweets that have his inmate number right there on the account, right near the top right now. So you can kind of find out everything. You'll also see a tweet there by Eric that has the phone number and the name of the person you should call to yell about this.
I think I'm going to do that after the show tonight. I should do it live. I should do it live. Gregg, thank you so much. And this is what I don't want this to turn into, some crazy parole violation where he goes away for another year, 2 years over something like this. I hope that the federal government realizes that he's got a lot of supporters out there. Everybody knows about this, that this is just completely wrong and absurd, and he's back on the streets tomorrow. That's what I'm hoping for, and I've got to get him on Fade to Black. I will not shut up about this, and I never have. And you know what kind of supporter I have been over the years for Barrett, and this I'm just outraged.
As you should be, and as should all of your listeners.
Thank you so much, Gregg. Again, thank you for coming on, and we'll talk over the next couple of days. Thank you so much, my friend.
Definitely. Have a good show, Ed.
You too. Thank you, Gregg. Gregg Housh, everybody. And I have to say, Barrett has got supporters around him. And as quickly as this hit the press today, and of course, Gregg was on his show today speaking about this. I am on this show tonight speaking about this. They will find out what kind of supporters Barrett has around him. This is something this is a journalist. This is a journalist that should have never gone to prison in the first place. They just didn't like the way that he spoke. They didn't like the way that he was representing Anonymous. They didn't like his attitude. They didn't like his, he liked to do drugs and write. His writing was so compelling and so above the norm in its quality and what it was about. They just didn't dig it. And this is supposed to be the United States of America with freedom of the press. And journalists are awarded certain freedoms because of what they are out there doing. And I am just outraged about this. Now, so Free Barrett Brown, the Twitter account, you just heard that from Gregg. The phone numbers are posted there. Do it. Do it. Man, just outraged. Unbelievable. Okay, now on top of that, see, this is the thing. Just last week, he was interviewed by Vice. They are monitoring his every step, his every move. And his lawyer also said that this is where it gets outrageous. His lawyer, Jay Lederman, said that he hadn't been presented with a formal justification for the arrest. Right? And was just told that, he was failing to abide by the Bureau of Prisons restrictions on interviews. Nothing formal. I don't even know if he's in communication with his attorney. How is this possible? Apparently, they gave him one phone call because he spoke to his mom. But to not announce where he is and where he is being taken to and everything else, and not telling his lawyer where he's at, not telling his mother where he's at, this is the United States. Man, outrage is just not the right word. It's a family show. Otherwise, I'd be using the real words I was using before this program tonight. You got to love Washington, D.C. Seriously. And with that, the White House launched a new hotline yesterday for people to report crimes committed by criminal aliens. But some of the callers instead are using the line to report cases of extraterrestrial contact and UFO sightings. Now, the administration set up the Victims of Immigration Crime Engagement, otherwise known as the Voice Office, yesterday, in accordance with President Trump's executive order this past January. The office, listen to this, is folded inside of the ICE offices, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. That should scare the crap out of you right there. And it aims to, and I'm quoting here from their website, assist victims of crimes committed by criminal aliens. Right? Alien is a term used by the federal government to describe individuals who are not American citizens but reside on U.S. soil. Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly said, listen to me, and I'm quoting here, all crime is terrible, but these victims are unique and too often ignored. They are casualties of crimes that should never have taken place because the people who are victimized oftentimes should not have been in the country in the first place. End quote. Now, maybe he should have said on this planet instead of in this country. Because despite the line's intended purpose, callers have been reporting a range of abnormal activity. Callers have been mentioned things like spotting Muggleborns, right? You know, that term from Harry Potter, referring to magical characters with non-magical parents. Now, check this out. Alexander McCoy, a Marine Corps veteran, said he called the hotline yesterday afternoon to report that he had been abducted by a UFO. He said that he was on hold for about 20 minutes before speaking with someone who asked him, and I'm quoting here, if he was calling to report a crime committed by an illegal alien. How offensive is that? And here's the conversation. McCoy says, I said yes. They asked if I had reported the crime to law enforcement. I said yes. They asked me who the victim was. I said me. They said that they needed to collect my information and an engagement officer would follow up with me about my story. And they asked me for my name, my address, phone number, and I gave them fake information. When asked what the crime was, McCoy said the operator didn't really get the joke because his answer was, I said I had been abducted by a UFO. He said there was a long pause, and then he said he heard them do a big sigh. And they closed out the conversation saying that they'd make a note of it and that I should wait for the DHS to investigate my report, and they hung up on him. And he said, I plan to call back again tomorrow, which is today. McCoy, a member of the activist group Common Defense. Now, this is the thing. Before I get to that, it's very offensive with the words and the terminology that the White House is using for voice. It's very offensive to a lot of different people. And for this to happen like this, I don't want to make the UFO community, we're making jokes, and I'm reading this, and people find it offensive, and they're going to go, Jimmy, how can you make jokes about this, man? How, people calling up and reporting abductions on this hotline, that's not funny. Ufology is serious, and you're making jokes of this, and people doing that, calling up on that line, that's not funny, man. They need to take us serious. That's not the point. That's not why McCoy called the line. He's a member of the activist group Common Defense. He said that he came up with the idea to troll voice because he noticed that hashtag Alien Day was trending on Twitter. That was yesterday. And he thought it might be a catchy way to fight back against the Trump administration use of bigoted language and racist stereotypes of criminality. Now, that was the intention. And you know what? I agree. I 100% agree. I saw a bunch of other different messages and things that were left on the voice hotline and speaking to people, and people are offended by it. People are completely offended in the words of it. Now, let's take it one step further. This is a snitch line. It's a snitch line. This is for anybody that doesn't like their neighbor. Doesn't like the people across the street or across the hall or living next door. So they can call this hotline and start reporting on people. And you know what? We are better than that. That kind of stuff went down and we got rid of decades ago. This is not the world that we live in today. I am completely offended by the voice hotline. And I'm completely offended not only with the term alien, but the way that they've presented it. And they are literally asking us to narc on our neighbors, to be a snitch, to be a rat. So they could send out, send out an agent? Oh, man. I'm completely offended. What a weird day today. Barrett Brown and the voice hotline in the same day. What is going on? What is going on? We need to chill out. This country, we need to seriously, listen to me. We need to seriously pump the brakes. We got to really slow things down and take a look around and see where we are going. We're going in the wrong direction, completely. We're off the rails, completely in the wrong direction. And with that, believe it or not, you know what's coming up next? The one and only Jon Rappoport and his No More Fake Newsroom. So get ready for that. We're going to get another dose of it. Jon Rappoport. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. So we've got Jon Rappoport, and right after that, Stephen Huff, Huff Paranormal, communicating with the other side with his Wonder Box. It's a great Fader night dead ahead. Stay with us. I'll be right back with Jon Rappoport.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hi, folks. Let's wind the clocks back 60 years. Food was different. Food provided health and nutrition, and using supplements was minimal. Unfortunately, now we have chemicals, GMOs, herbicides, and pesticides that can be quite lethal in the name of our food supply and, of course, the ever-loving dollar. Supplementing our diets can be very important to stay healthy. Cleansing from daily intruders to the body might be critical. Live strong and take charge. Log on to getthetea.com. Our herbal tea is a great way to cleanse from intruders. Our supplements is a great way to maintain and improve your health. When your health is not up to par, go to getthetea.com. No GMOs, no fillers, and organic, and very helpful in keeping you at the top of your game. Life is too short to feel, you know what I mean. Stay in the game, at the top of your game with getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Again, getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Klutsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fade or Nots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
And now, coming to you from the No More Fake Newsroom in deep space, which is the space that we suspect to be true, that the world, as it is fed to us every day by the Ministry of Truth, is a lie, a false reality, a movie projected on the screen of our subconscious. This, however, is the breakout. All the screens crash, they all go down, and we see the light of day. A new day. No more robots, no more androids. It's the No More Fake Newsroom with Jon Rappoport. Take it away, John.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's been a very busy news week. Stories flying everywhere. Crisis here, crisis there, etc., etc. And in the process, a couple of gigantic medical stories have flown under the radar as usual, and so I want to nail those down for you. Number one, blood-thinning drug Xarelto faces 18,000 lawsuits. That's 18,000. This is a drug developed and sold by Bayer and Johnson & Johnson, and the first test case is coming up in New Orleans this week or next week. And that case will influence how the 18,000 lawsuits sitting behind it will be handled. These are lawsuits representing patients who've taken the drug against these drug companies. So the plaintiff in the first suit is Joseph Boudreau. And I want to read a quote from the, oh boy, I can't scroll down here. What's going on? Okay. Chicago Tribune. While Xarelto was supposed to help cut his stroke risk, Boudreau says it instead caused internal bleeding. That's the main complaint in all of these lawsuits. That required a week-long hospital stay in the ICU, several blood transfusions, and multiple heart procedures. Wow. So what are the lawyers for Bayer and Johnson & Johnson going to argue in trying to win this case and hopefully deflect all the other cases? Mainly, they're going to say that you can't blame us because the FDA approved the drug as being safe and effective. They will claim a few other things, but that's going to be the main track of their argument, okay? It's called shifting responsibility, and I want to focus on that because what I'm going to give you here is a viewpoint that you just don't get, okay? Now, yes, the FDA is the single agency tasked with approving a drug as safe and effective before it can be released to the public. But, I'm quoting from my article here, the last time I looked, the FDA doesn't develop, manufacture, and sell drugs, right? Pharmaceutical companies do. If their drugs kill people and maim them, why shouldn't they shoulder the blame regardless of what a government agency says? A simple change in the law would remedy this situation. Irrespective of what the FDA claims or doesn't claim, ultimate accountability for a drug's effects lies with the company that created it. And then I offer this analogy. If you own a business that makes a product and 18,000 people are lined up to sue you, because they claim the product seriously harmed them, you're the one who's going to have to go to court and try to defend your actions. You're not going to be able to claim it was your second cousin's fault or the man in the moon's responsibility. So even if we assume the FDA is honest and thorough and honorable, all laughable, they're simply offering their assessment. It doesn't matter that they're the only body that can certify a drug for public use. That's not a reason to exonerate a drug company. Drug companies try to make hay from the fact that the FDA is certifying their medicines. The companies are saying, don't blame us. The FDA liked our drug, blame them, and good luck with that. All right? Another analogy. This would be like a mother saying, yeah, I was in the park with my child and I wandered away to talk to an ice cream vendor, and I came back a half hour later to find her with a broken leg on the ground. But you see, it was my husband's fault because he decided I would be competent to take care of our children. Same idea. Drug companies, well, the FDA said it was okay to market the drug, therefore we're off the hook, right? Why people can't get this, I don't know. I know why the government doesn't want to get this, and I know why the drug companies don't want to get this. The drug companies actually like the fact that the FDA has to approve all their drugs because they can do exactly what they're doing here. When 18,000 people line up to sue them because they all suffered from internal bleeding, and who knows how many of those cases the people almost died, or maybe some did die, I don't know. The drug company can say, look, it's the FDA. They approved the drug. They said it was safe and effective, and that ended our responsibility. That's what this is all about. The concept of responsibility in our culture, where everybody can blame everybody else for what's happening, you see, but never take any responsibility themselves. And in case you haven't noticed, that notion has spread like a forest fire throughout the culture and the country and the world in the last, let's say, 10 years, where it's now fashionable, fashionable to find somebody else to accuse for the problems that you're supposed to solve. And I know this is not a very popular view. It's much more popular to say, well, there's nothing you can do about anything because, forces beyond your control are in charge. And it's all their fault. That's the same argument. It's just the other side of the coin. Well, we created this drug. We developed it. We tested it. We did clinical trials, and then we submitted that to the FDA, and they said the drug was safe and effective. So, what do you want from us? We have discharged our entire responsibility. No, you haven't. You made the drug. You created the drug. You're the author of the drug. So if you want to leave the FDA in place, fine, they do their certification. But when the drug starts killing people and maiming them badly, you have to go back to the author, the creator of the drug. You just can't keep passing the buck and saying, well, they said it was okay, and they said it was okay, and that's all. That's all, folks. No. We need to change that. That has to be changed. So we'll see what happens in these lawsuits. There is a chance that the judge or the jury is going to be convinced by the lawyers for the drug companies that, yes, the FDA is the sole responsible party. And therefore, the drug companies don't have to pay out any money at all. Now, I'm not saying that the FDA is off the hook either, because in fact, they did say the drug was safe and effective, and obviously it's not. But just because of that doesn't mean that all of a sudden you can say the drug company has no responsibility. Okay, I've made my point there. It's infuriating to me, to say the least. I'm sure you can detect it in my voice. We go around in this society of ours, and time again, we hear it's somebody else who did it. Somebody else's fault. Now, I'm a journalist talking to you with over 30 years of experience. I know how to assign blame, believe me. I've investigated countless numbers of stories and drilled down far enough to find the guilty party and expose that guilty party. I have done that. I couldn't even count the number of times. So it's not that I'm not aware of this, but I also understand the other side. And the other side is a person, a corporation, a group, an organization. If they just go around avoiding the need to solve their own problems by blaming somebody else for those problems, they're never going to be free. They're never going to be independent. They're never going to be powerful. They're never going to be creative. They're never going to be anything but parasites. Story number 2. Headline: how would you feel if your doctor were bribed to give you a drug? Just posted this tonight. Hello, Novartis. The Swiss pharmaceutical giant has just been fined $50 million by the government of South Korea for bribing doctors to prescribe the company's drugs. Yeah, right. Okay, so $50 million fine, but in South Korea, there's also going to be a criminal trial. You don't see that happening in the United States. Indicted half a dozen Novartis executives, as well as more than a dozen doctors, and 5 medical journal heads. I don't know what that last part is about, but I'm sure it's very interesting. So this criminal trial opening up now, underway in Korea, South Korea, and also $50 million fine for bribing doctors to prescribe a drug to a patient. Is this the way medicine is supposed to be practiced? Now, a Novartis spokesman called the crime, quote, in violation of our policies and inconsistent with our culture, meaning the culture of the drug company. And I write, really? There's more. And I'm quoting now from a piece at a website called Fierce Pharma. Outside of Korea, Novartis faces similar bribery claims in Greece, where an official earlier this month said thousands of people could be implicated. The company faced other allegations in Turkey, which it now considers, quote, unsubstantiated, and paid $25 million, Novartis did, to the U.S. authorities last year to settle a bribery investigation in China. So, sounds like bribery might be central to the culture of Novartis after all. Let's see, China, Greece, Italy, and South Korea. Okay. So what I'm asking here is, do law enforcement officials in these countries release the names of the bribed doctors and inform their patients of these crimes? Not to my knowledge. Why not? the patients ought to know, and then they ought to be able to sue the drug company for bribing the doctors, and they ought to be able to sue the doctors too. Both carry responsibility for the bribery. Now, let's take the whole business out a little bit wider here. Do you think doctors who take money from drug companies, for example, for speaking fees and consulting and who knows what else, might be prone to altering their prescription habits? Well, I personally do. Sure. If so, consider this nugget from NPR, dated March 17th, 2016. Nationwide in the U.S., nearly 9 in 10 cardiologists who wrote at least 1,000 prescriptions for Medicare patients received payments from a drug or device company in 2014, while 7 in 10 internists and family practitioners did. 9 out of 10 cardiologists took money from drug companies. You think that might influence the way they practice medicine and what the drugs that they prescribe? I think it certainly could. Then there is this bombshell from Business Insider. Quote, companies pay doctors millions of dollars to promote not their most innovative or effective drugs, but some of their most unremarkable. And I'm not going to read the whole quote, but in the last 5 months of 2013, drug makers spent almost $20 million trying to convince physicians and teaching hospitals to give their freshly patented drugs to patients. Blah, blah, blah. And Business Insider indicates that some of these drugs that are being pushed by the drug companies to these doctors who are paying, the drug companies are essentially paying money to get the doctors to prescribe their drugs. Some of these have serious side effects. Wow, how would you like to be one of those patients? Drug company bribes a doctor, you go to the office, doctor gives you a diagnosis, gives you a drug because he was bribed, and that drug has serious side effects. Serious side effects. Whereas if the doctor hadn't been bribed, he wouldn't have prescribed that drug. Wow. Okay. Now we get into the real numbers here. This is an interesting website called medicalbillingandcoding.org. 2011 article. And their analysis is, now we're talking about drug companies paying money to doctors. We don't know in this case why or for what supposed reasons. Speaking fees, consulting, this, that, who knows, right? But it's money and it's paid to doctors by drug companies, which to me indicates a conflict of interest right there. Or let's call it a potential conflict of interest right there. All right. Between 2009 and 2011, these drug companies paid doctors the following amounts. That's 2 years worth. Merck, $9.4 million. Johnson & Johnson, $10.6 million. Pfizer, $19.8 million. AstraZeneca, $22.8 million. GlaxoSmithKline, $96.4 million. And the winner, Eli Lilly, $144.1 million. That's just between 2009 and 2011. And I write, does this cast an ominous cloud over the companies and their favorite doctors? You bet. You bet. Now, this website, Medical Billing and Coding, goes on to publish the fines that have been levied against drug companies. We're now talking about the years 2007 to 2010 for engaging in illegal activities with doctors. Could be, that's the broadest brush that we can use there. And then I say the fines, of course, are a drop in the bucket considering the profits of these corporations. But anyway, these are the fines for drug companies who engage in illegal activities with doctors, obviously meant to influence these doctors. Okay, here are the fines. Forest Laboratories, $313 million. Allergen, $600 million. AstraZeneca, $520 million. Cephalon, $425 million. And Pfizer, $2.3 billion. Paying a fine is having to say you're sorry and then you walk away. The next time you speak with a doctor, you might apprise him of all these matters, just to liven the conversation. And that's that piece. Now, I don't know how many of you I have to convince of how important these stories are. That's, up for grabs. With all the stories out there grabbing for your attention these days, stories like this tend to, we know there's problems there, you kind of brush it aside. But this involves untold numbers of people who go into doctors' offices as patients and have no idea what's happening. How many doctors are influenced by drug companies? To the point where the doctor, whatever you think of him and whatever you think of the way that he practices medicine, is going, and even if you have a negative opinion of that, he's going to do even a worse job because he's under the influence. He's sold out. He is now covertly and secretly working on behalf of drug companies, especially when it comes to the drugs that he will prescribe to patients. And who knows, even the diagnosis, when it's on a fine edge for that doctor. Well, I could diagnose this or I could diagnose that. It's kind of a blur. But if I diagnose this, then I can prescribe that drug made by that company, and that company is paying me money. Yeah. Talk about an infection. This is a serious infection. This is an infection at every level. And again, the question of responsibility comes up because, look, in America at least, the theme is the drug companies pay serious money, but to them in fines when they're caught. But to them, it's just walking around money, chump change. In fact, these companies often have slush funds in which they just deposit monies because they anticipate that something like this is going to happen where they get caught and they're going to have to pay out a big fine. But there are no criminal trials and nobody goes to prison. In fact, normally the way the Justice Department operates is the companies pay a fine, they release a statement apologizing, and then they say that they will change their behavior in the future. That's it.
Jon, let me jump in really quick. I want to have some time here to talk to you. There's one thing that really, really offends me, and that all of these pharmaceutical companies have their sales rep out there on their routes calling on doctors' offices. They all have sales contests, right? They've got numbers. They're paid commission. They have numbers that they have to meet, and they think it's all fun and games as a sales rep. We're not talking about selling shower curtain rings, right? This is a real situation, and the competition is stiff. And these sales reps are going to these doctors' offices with lunches and gifts and bottles of wine and everything else that they can do to make buddy and make friends with that doctor, because they're the doctor's best friend. All those sales reps are the same. They wear the same cologne.
And it goes further than that. First of all, they've all got samples, drug samples.
That's right.
Drop off.
Yep.
And the second thing is, one of the practices is the drug salesman, who is not called a drug salesman, actually stands with the doctor in the examining room with the patient after patient after patient, and records the prescribing actions of the doctors and then reports back to the drug company. So it isn't just, hi, how you doing? Here's flowers, candy, and whatever. Some of these guys get into the offices with the doctors.
And a script.
Everything that I'm reporting here tonight is an outgrowth of that daily practice that you're talking about, except on top of all of this, the drug companies are paying these doctors speaking fees and consulting fees, and at least in some cases, as I have read through some research here, the doctors don't even give the speeches. There are no speeches, but they're paid for it.
But you're paid for it. I mean, how many vacations, hey, man, if you prescribe this, this year we're going to do this at the end of this quarter, and it's all a big game. And like I said, there's nothing creepier than a pharmaceutical sales rep. You're sitting in the doctor's office, you see them coming in, like I said, wearing that cologne, the gold rings, the nice briefcase, all sharp. It just is creepy, and they are paid commission on prescription medication. It should be illegal. It should not occur. But it does. John, you are the very best, man. And I know you're going to, sleep with one eye open tonight. I don't know. Maybe you're on the cool side of the pillow, right?
I'm on the cool side.
John, thank you so much, man. And again, for everybody, nomorefakenews.com. I read something earlier this week that said you've had that website name since 2001, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
2001.
Talking about staying out in front of the story, right? Thank you so much, John. You're the best.
Thank you, Jimmy.
You're the best,
always.
My friend. Have a great weekend.
You too.
All right. Jon Rappoport, everybody. NoMoreFakeNews.com. That's where you start off your day every day. All right. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to be right back with Stephen Huff, Huff Paranormal, and the Wonder Box, and Communication with Spirits, and the Other Side. This is Fade to Black. I'm yours, Jimmy Church. I'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case.
This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boom boxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. I went from being able to work 14, 16 hours a day with no problem to where I could barely walk a block to the store. I went on to the phytonutrients about 6 months ago, and within a couple of months, my medical doctor had cut my prescriptions down in a little bit smaller dosage. The next time I went back a month later, I walked into the doctor's office and he says, "My gosh, what's happened to you? You don't even look like the same person." He looked at my legs and the swelling had gone down. My blood pressure was down. The venous stasis ulcers that I had had on my legs for the last 4 or 5 years because of the poor circulation were all healed, and I'm feeling far better.
The new challenge will allow you to receive 2 months of Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies free, and we'll even ship them to you free. Call now for details. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code TALK.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Very special broadcast tonight. I want to thank Jon Rappoport for coming in. That was an eye-opener. You know, every Thursday night with Jon is an education, right? But tonight, wow. And watching Twitter light up like this, it warms my heart. You guys get it. But right now, it's about Stephen Huff. Steve Huff is a professional photographer. He's a blogger and spirit communicator who has been speaking to the dead for many years. His website at stevehufpphoto.com receives 50 to 100,000 visits per day, and his paranormal YouTube channel has over 120,000 subscribers who watch his spirit communication videos. And I will say this, I have spent many a day with my coffee and Steve and his coffee communicating with the other side. It is just, it is such a compelling thing to go through. Huff has created 2 software apps for spirit communication, along with our good friend Anthony F. Sanchez of the GhostHunterApps.com. The SCD-1 is one of the most used pieces of software for spirit communication, and the new Impossible Box is pushing the edge even further. Huff has teamed up with Hope, H-O-P-E, Paranormal, in 2015 to create a feature documentary called Finding the Light, which was released in 2016. You can see that on his YouTube channel, Huff Paranormal, and I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Stephen Huff. Steve, good evening, my friend. How are you?
Hey, Jimmy. I'm doing great.
And
how are you?
I am fantastic, and I got to say, it's good to hear your voice because I've watched so many of your videos, but, you know, here we are. But this is the cool thing. It's you get the first-time guest disclaimer, all right? Now, the next time you're on the show, you're not going to get it, but tonight you get the disclaimer. And the disclaimer is, this is just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. Where we start, where we end, but we're going to end as friends. All right, you ready?
That's awesome.
Yeah, the pressure.
Yes, I'm ready.
Yeah, the pressure's on, right? The normal question right now with a guest like yourself is, how did you get started in this? And of course, we need to discuss that. But I'm more interested in the music side of this. Are you a musician? Are you a guitar player?
I'm a wannabe guitar player. For about 20 years, I've dabbled with it. Self-taught. I know basics, but I'm not any kind of professional. But I enjoy it. It used to be something I did to take the stress away, But, I do enjoy guitar.
Yeah, and the reason why I'm asking is because when I first started seeing your stuff a few years ago, I noticed the guitar side of it. And I was completely intrigued. And I'm looking at the gear, and I'm like, "Wait a minute! I know what that is." So that's why I need to ask: was it an accident? Were you had your gear together, and something just happened, and you made some communication?
Yeah, there's kind of a story behind it. I'll give you the really quick story of how I got started. It was basically. All my life I've been interested in the paranormal and ghosts, and I always wanted to believe in ghosts and life after death. And, as a kid, as early as 9, I used Ouija boards with friends, and, we would do little seances in the basement. As I grew older into my teen years, I kind of gave up on trying to, have a ghost pop up in my bedroom as I slept, because to me, that was the only way I was going to believe in them.
Right.
So teen years go by, I go into my 20s, I get married. And have a son. And as just for fun one day, we decided to go to the Queen Mary. And we walked around the Queen Mary, and I had a little digital recorder. And I'm like, we'll record. Maybe we'll pick up something. And we played back about 10 minutes of recording, and we had about 6 or 7 amazing full-volume EVPs. And I was trying to explain them away the whole night, because at that time I was, still skeptical. And I couldn't explain them. So later on in life, somebody emailed me, a friend, and they said their mother-in-law thinks they have ghosts because she took a bunch of pictures that are filled with orbs. So I said, well, in my experience, 99% of orb pictures are nothing but dust being reflected, from the flash on your camera. So if you use a flash, chances are, and you're kicking up dust on a carpet, chances are you're going to get an orb. So I went searching on YouTube for, there was a video I saw about debunking orbs, and I was going to send it to her. And then I saw, this was maybe 6 years ago, I saw a video from someone who said he was talking to ghosts with a spirit box. So I was intrigued. I clicked on it. And, that was back then when the PSB-7 spirit box first came out.
Right.
And he was using that, and, I was hearing recognizable answers to his questions, so I was intrigued. So I started researching, and there was a couple small communities, like Yahoo groups and stuff like that. There was nothing really big on YouTube or even Facebook at the time, just small groups. But I guess the hot thing to buy at the time or to own was a Frank's box. Are you familiar with Frank's box?
Absolutely.
Okay. So then I was like, okay, how can I get a hold of one? And I was finding it was impossible, unless you knew Frank. And I didn't know him. We became friends on Facebook. But we really didn't know each other, and he wasn't selling any boxes at the time. So I'm like, well, let me check my local Craigslist. What are the odds of, local Craigslist, someone's going to have a Frank's box?
You never know,
I typed in Frank's box, and lo and behold, 10 minutes away from me, somebody was selling a Frank's box. So I messaged him. He was selling it for $250. I met him up in a store parking lot, and he was afraid to death of the thing. He's like, oh, my God, I have to get rid of this. Can't stay in the house. The wife says it has to go. So I was like, okay, well, I'll take it, So I went in originally to debunk. I was like, this can't be real. You can't turn on a device and talk to the dead. There's no way. So as soon as I turned on the Frank's box, and I actually started with a PSB-7, but it was so noisy, I wanted to try something different.
Yeah, the PSB-7, all of those, they irritate me. I mean, I don't know how people sit there with those things for hours.
Yeah, you got that,
yep.
And I think that was designed that way with the thoughts and the theory that, well, the white noise might help the communication. But anyway, we went, I turned on the Frank's box, and first thing I do is say, is anyone here with me? And I hear it say, Paul, in a weird voice. And I'm like, what? And then the next thing was a woman saying, be careful. And I was like, okay, there's something to this. So then I just kind of dove head in, full steam. I started recording videos. My son became interested, and that's what started the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel I have now is my second one. The first one, I got so scared from it in the beginning, I shut it all down. But now I don't fear it at all. But anyway, so back to, that's how I got started. So as time went on, I got really involved in this whole ITC thing, and I was getting really good communication, even with, like the hack radios and stuff. And I tried to buy as many unique boxes as I could, a Joe's box, a mini box. And then I noticed apps were starting to come out, and everybody was saying, well, apps are fake. But I'm like, well, let's try them. If it's the same concept as a scanning radio, but it's scanning through various audible banks, maybe it'll have the same result. And I was getting some decent results, but for some reason, I have a guitar set up with an amp and a bunch of pedals. And one night I'm like, well, what would happen if I plugged it into my amp, to boost it and give it a big sound? But I ran it through the pedal board. So I started it with just the amp, and I'm like, oh, wow, it's loud, and then I was like, well, what would happen if I hit the reverb?
Right.
So as soon as I pressed that reverb, things got a little more silent, not as chatty with the scan, and then I was hearing much longer replies coming out. So instead of 1 and 2 quick words, I was starting to hear 3, 4, 5 words or a phrase. So I was like, well, maybe there's something to this. So that's when I got together with Anthony Sanchez of Ghost Hunter Apps, and I'm like, well, let's make this app and let's copy the formula of a scanning radio, but let's use internet radio so there's no white noise, thus eliminating that of the PSB7. And I was like, let's test it out, see if we can get anything. And I said, if you can add reverb within the app, do that as well, because it might improve communication. So after all the testing, I found definitely that adding that reverb definitely helped with not only more replies, but longer replies, and sometimes more direct replies. So, that's where the whole guitar thing started. And then it kind of just grew from there, that something so simple was becoming so effective for this work. It's pretty crazy how it improved it.
And now I've produced a lot of records, a lot of bands.
Mm-hmm.
You probably know about my background. I know the audio chain, digital, analog, audio, effect, every layer of everything. Or at least I thought I had a grip until you came along. So what is the deal with the reverb? Have you looked into this, and why? I can't answer it. The only thing that I could, because I've thought about this a lot when I watch your videos, is reverbs are very complex. It's the hardest code to write in digital effects, because it's bazillions of responses because of the decay. The longer the decay,
yes,
the more coding that has to be done. And it's a continuous loop, by the way. That's the other thing. A reverb loop sends the signal back, it restarts, and it goes back out longer, but at a lower volume, comes back, returns, goes back out, and it does this millions of times per second. Is that why? Why does the reverb work?
I wish I could answer that, but I have tested over a dozen different reverbs, and even created my own setting for one of the pedals that allows you to program your own reverb algorithm. And what I found is the longer the decay,
right,
the better it works, but
right,
not so much high on the reverb effect, but the decay seems to be helping. And I really can't answer that question. I just know it works.
Yeah,
but it has something to do with that decay, I think. I'm not really sure though.
Yeah,
but
because
I did.
The longer the decay, the more lines of code that are there, the more complex that it is. And in my mind's eye, Stephen, now look, you're the pro here, but I think it's more digital information for the other side to grab onto.
Yes, that's a very good theory, actually, because I found, over the years when I started making my first device, the Portal, it was so simple, and I told everybody how to make it online. The instructions are still there at my website.
Yep.
And basically it consisted of a noise reduction and a reverb and an amp. And the noise reduction was for if you plug in something like a PSB7, you could turn that noise reduction up until that noise is about 85% gone, but you still hear the voices. And the reverb is taking that PSB7 and allowing those responses to go from those 1 and 2 quick words to sometimes even a full sentence. So it's crazy how something so simple managed to change that whole dynamic of the PSB-7 and make it so effective. It's crazy, really.
Now, I want to get to a couple of other technical things, the guy talk. We'll get that out of the way before the break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about some of the communications that you've had. You've got a really cool steampunk look going on, right? Love it. And you've got some really cool display activity that's on the front of the amp too. So take us through that and what is going on there, and where did you start to come up with this look?
Okay. Well, as it progressed, started with the Portal. It was basic. Nothing was painted. I just Velcroed the pedals on the sides and it worked. But I wanted to make it better. And believe it or not, before I made that, when I first tested the reverb and I was using my guitar amp, they were giving me tips. One message was cut the noise. And I was like, cut the noise? Okay. That's when I thought of the noise reduction pedal. And little things. They were talking about energy, electrical energy, my energy, even orgon energy. So over the last 2 years, that Portal has become what I call the Wonder Box, because it's so full of wonders. You can't explain any of it, but it works. So you have, in the Wonder Box today, it's basically using a small guitar amp with kind of a little high wattage, high power. And it's using the noise reduction. It's using the reverb, the best reverb I've found to work, and a reverse algorithm that takes the incoming signal, and after a 5 to 6 second buffer, it starts reversing the audio. So not exactly real time, but a 6 second, because it takes time. It needs some time to start reversing the audio. So if you have, say, I've loaded it with a police scanner from a police scanner app on my phone. I would then hit the reverse pedal. It would start reversing. So all we should hear is gibberish. So there should be no explanation, or no one should be able to explain if you get a full forward speech direct answer to your question. And that's exactly what was happening. I was getting direct answers to my question in forward speech with a police scanner going in reverse. So the Wonderbox now has that. It has the reverse mode. It has the reverb. And then I also found, by testing various pitch shifting pedals, that if you lower the pitch a little bit, I was finding I was getting 30%, up to 30% more replies. So it seems like the more things that are added, the more replies come through. And I've also added the orgon. I've added the big copper, I call it the human energy transfer, which they told me to add, and now they keep telling me to touch it and hold it. The theory is it can transfer some of my energy for them to use, which I don't really recommend others do, because on a couple of occasions, I think it really worked, and I was so drained by the end of it. I really didn't feel good for a couple of days. But, so you add in all these things, the electricity, the current, the effects that seem to work, and put it all in a nice, cool-looking package, and the thing just sounds and looks awesome. And the display on the front, I recently added. It's just like an audio display of what's coming through, so you can actually see, because some people were like, well, you could have added that in editing. And I'm like, well, yeah, I could have, but I don't. But so maybe this audio waveform can show people, no, it's coming through in real time. So that's what motivated me to put that in. So yeah, it's starting to get a lot of attention. There's a lot of people who are using the original Portal, and I get videos every week sent to me with their evidence. And, a lot of other people are building boxes, and they're incorporating reverb, and they're experimenting with effects. And I think that's awesome, because the more people that experiment, maybe someone else is going to find something else that takes it to the next level,
Right. How long does it take you to build one now? I've watched your videos. I've watched your videos. So I've got 7 in production, right? So,
I work, on my photography website, which is what pays the bills, and I've been doing that for 8-9 years almost now. And this when I have some spare time coming up, I'll offer on my website a few for sale, 3 or 4 or something, 5 sometimes. And if I take, say, 5 orders, it'll take me a good 3.5 weeks to get those done. Because the way I make them now, it goes through like this whole, I paint, I triple clear coat it with professional automotive clear coat. I make sure I add neodymium magnets on the inside with some copper with the theory of creating a magnetic field inside.
Right.
So yeah, it takes about 3.5 weeks.
And what do they sell for?
A lot.
I can only imagine.
Example,
it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, tell me.
The custom that I recently sold, a run of 15 over a few months. Actually, I sold that for $18.99, but in parts alone, that thing costs me anywhere between $13.50 and $1400.
Sure.
And then I pay, to ship it and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's not for everyone, but for those who are really into ITC, have experience with Spirit Box devices and know what they're doing, correct techniques, those are the people that would benefit the most from it. I tell people who are newbies, I'm like, I wouldn't recommend this device for you. I would recommend something like a PSP-7 or an app to start out with.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I have to ask, which reverb pedal have you settled on?
Well, I used to use there's one called the Hall of Fame Mini. And that one I was able to create my own algorithm for, and I have that information on my website as well, so people can program those settings into it. And that's the cheapest option. I think that pedal runs around $100 or so.
Right.
The pedal that I've been using recently is made by Earthquaker Devices, and it's called the Transmitter. It's like $240, and it's a really rich sounding reverb. You can set those decay and trails to really long or really short. It has this pulse to it that is fast or slow. And if you go, a lot of times I'll ask them, do you want me to go fast or slow? And usually they say fast. So it's like a wah, wah, wah. It's like a pulse of the reverb.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I do. And for the reverse, it's important, like if anybody's going to build one of these, you put the reverse after the reverb, because it's not only reversed in the audio, it's reversing the reverb. And I found when I did that, it made it much more effective.
Man, that is just
it gives it kind of it gives it this out of this world sound when that reverse is on. It's really interesting.
And now a couple of other. I'm just getting the technical stuff out of the way. What amps?
Oh yeah, no problem.
What amps do you find that ended up working the best?
There's an amp that's practically made for this, and it's amazing. It's a ZT Lunchbox Junior. They're around $250. They used to be $150, and they raised the price.
Right.
And the company is aware that everybody's making portals with them. I think they sell more to people making portals than they do for people playing guitar. So I've spoken with the company about it, and the reason it's made for it, I say, is because you add all these pedals, right, and you have the amp. The cool thing is you can add a battery to it. They're like $89, a rechargeable battery. And the amp has a connection where you can daisy chain all those pedals, plug it into the back of the amp, then you plug your battery into the back of the amp, and that battery will power not only the amp, but all the effects for about 8 hours of use.
Oh, so that's cool.
You don't have to plug it in. It's portable. You can take it with you. And so that makes it perfect. I mean, you can use other amps, but you won't have that integration of battery power and all of that good stuff.
Now, and one last little quick question. With things like the Transmitter and the other, do you take the guts out of the pedals? Or, are you reconfiguring the electronics and putting them in the back of the Wonderbox? Or are all of these mounted externally?
They're mounted externally, which gives it a totally different look. And it's almost like, there's some boxes that you have a power button, you have a volume, and that's easy. I like to say that this box is for those who like to tinker, because any little setting change can alter the results, it seems. So I used to experiment with opening the pedals and trying to change some stuff, and I blew up 2 or 3 of them and lost like $800.
Right.
And then I used to, in the first portal, I would attach certain crystals inside the pedals, seeing if that would help. And it was really inconclusive on that. So everything's outside for easy access. That's why I say it's for those with experience, because a lot of people, it could be overwhelming. They see this box with all these dials on it, and oh my God, what does what? But when I sell one, I make a private video for each owner using their box, showing them how to use it and how to get best results anyway.
And that's the other question. So you guide everybody through presets, right? Because there's a lot of knobs here, and it could really go in the wrong direction really quick if you don't know what you're doing. You do guide people on presets and kind of like start here.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, like I said, they each get a video using their box with a demo, and each demo I do, we're just demoing it. We always get replies coming through. So they usually love their private videos because it shows them all the settings I use and how I conduct a session and my tips, the things that I think work, from my experience. So.
All right. Well, let's take a break right here. Now, when we come back, we're going to go straight to it and talk about communications and, of course, coffee with Steve, one of my favorite things. We'll do all of that. Stephen Huff is our guest tonight, Huff Paranormal. We're talking about his Wonderbox and communication with spirits and the other side. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hey there, quick question for you. Would you be okay with more energy, more endurance, thicker, healthier hair, a better mood, reduced appearance of wrinkles, improved sleep, improved blood pressure and cholesterol profiles, improved vision, improved memory? Okay then. Well now, have you heard of Nature's Youth RSF? It's from the anti-aging experts at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. See, at Nature's Youth, they understand exactly what it means to provide top-quality health products. And Nature's Youth customers not only improve their health, they know they're also providing their body with the right nourishment to maintain that peak performance and fight the aging process. If health, wellness, and nutrition are what you desire, choose Nature's Youth RSF. I did. You see, you're going to get older. It's just up to you how you feel when you get there. Get started today. Nature's Youth RSF. Simple to use, simple to order. Go to nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com.
I was introduced to this remarkable product, Balance of Nature Fruits and Veggies, and to say it's amazing is an understatement. Balance of Nature provides the nutrients of 9 to 11 servings of 31 different whole ripened fruits and veggies per day, and the cost to the consumer for 9 to 11 servings is about 22 cents per serving, as opposed to over $1 in the store. Balance of Nature Fruits and Veggies helps boost the immune system by over 720%, and they also provide a health coach for you at no charge to guide you with any questions you may have. And you can also visit their website for testimonials on balanceofnature.com. So take steps to give yourself better overall health and call them now, toll free, at 800-246-8751. That's 800-246-8751, or go to balanceofnature.com right now. Make sure to let them know you heard it here by using promo code TALK for a special discount. That's balanceofnature.com and use promo code TALK.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Stephen Huff. Huff Paranormal. This portion of the broadcast was brought to you by River Moon Coffee. Makers of the Fade to Black blend. Yes, it's dark, it's complex, and it's smoky. Just go to the River Moon Coffee banner right now over at jimmychurchradio.com. Click on it, and when you order Fade to Black, use the promo code F2B Blend, and you're going to get 15% off of your order. And what a perfect time to mention our coffee, because our guest tonight, Stephen Huff, has a series of videos that I got to tell you, Stephen, I've already told you this, but I can't tell you how many mornings I kick it off and watch your coffee videos. and I'm drinking coffee now. So I want to ask you this. I get sucked in, okay? And when I'm listening to the communications, I am in this, I'm going to the other side. I'm going into this other world. Part of it is the reverb, too. That adds the little creepy side to it. But I go into this, and I'm just imagining these spirits walking around, and this community, and it's this dark, this place, right? Is that what happens to you? Do you walk through this netherworld?
Well, I've seen it once. Now, when I started this, I wasn't able to see anything. You know, I would hear voices. My son would too in my house with our own ears without any equipment on. Once we started really getting into it, then I would start feeling them where, you know, you see, you know, on some people say, oh, I get the goosebumps.
Right.
For me, it feels like a head to toe electricity, or if they're behind me on my right shoulder, the electricity's there. And a few years ago, I would say, wait, where are you? Because I feel this electricity on my shoulder. And they would tell me behind you, you know, touching you. So over time, I realized, okay, when I feel that, according to them, that's where they're touching me. And then it would get so intense sometimes, and that's when they would say that they were going in me or through me. And then as that progressed, just recently, I'd say the last 6 months, I came up with this little theory, this test idea to experiment with, where I would attach a copper coil to my head, my waist or my stomach area, and my finger all connected into the box. Now, I did that because I was driving from Sedona one day with my fiance, and it just flashed in my head. It was me and 3 others sitting at a table, all wearing these, connected to the Wonder Box. And I looked at it and I said, okay, I have something I have to experiment with. I went home, I started making one. About 2 weeks later, I finally finished, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go test it. And the video's on my YouTube. It's a longer video, but I hook it up, turn it on, and the session just started getting so intense, and they're screaming for help and yelling, pleading for help, not screaming, begging for help and save us. And then they started talking about evil coming in. Then they're saying angels were coming into the room, into the corners. And then I just started seeing this gray, big area. And I would say millions of these figures that were basically a shape. And they were kind of dark. And they were just walking slowly or moving slowly. And I just felt this sense of sadness. And it made me really upset. And I was, like, is this where they are? Because if so, that would make sense from most of the communication I've received over the years. And my theory is that most of what comes through this device, and all spirit boxes, in my opinion, are spirits who are either stuck or in some kind of holding place. Some would say purgatory. And some don't know where they're at. Some call it hell. As a matter of fact, just a couple of weeks ago, there's a video where at the end they said, "We're listening to you from hell." And that kind of freaked me out a little bit. I don't really like that. But, we really don't know. There's no way for me to prove who's coming through, what's coming through. So I can only go by what they tell me. And when I ask them on multiple occasions, are you a ghost? Are you an alien? Are you on another planet? Are you an angel, a demon? The only answers I've ever gotten are either ghost, spirit, demon, or angel. So I have to conclude that we are tapping into spirits or souls. They tell me that our souls are all pure energy. We're made of energy, and we live forever. So there's all kinds of information that I've gathered over the years, and I've all written them into a notebook where I just have notes and notes and notes. And if you read through them, they all start to match up to these are lost souls, and they're stuck, and they don't like where they're at, and it is otherworldly. It's really bizarre. But the more I do this, and the deeper I get into it, and the more I tweak things and try to improve it, it seems like the more I can get myself into trouble, because I've also been attacked twice, and on those two occasions went to the hospital, thought I was having a heart attack, and I was admitted on both occasions. They said, "Oh, you're having a heart attack." And then after they run all the tests, they're like, "Well, it's inconclusive, and you're healthy as a horse. I don't smoke. I don't have an unhealthy lifestyle. I don't do drugs. I'm pretty much in shape." So they could not explain, why that happened. Of course, I didn't tell them that, I was talking to the dead and was attacked.
Right.
The attacks were very real, very physical. One of them, my fiance, freaked out and was so upset because I kind of blacked out. But on the couch, I was moving. My head was back. She said I was choking. I couldn't breathe. Tears were coming down my face. And as she was seeing this, what I was seeing were these three things in a black hole in space. And around this black hole, I saw translucent figures flying in a circle around it. And through this hole comes these three total demonic or ghastly-looking things. And they just start trying to rip my stomach open. One's choking me. And I thought, without a shadow of a doubt, that I was going to die. And I'm not a religious guy at all. I never, I went to church when I was little. My mom made me, but I never grew up going to church or reading the Bible. I believe in a creator. I'm a spiritual person. But so when that was happening, and by the way, the whole room went black for me. I couldn't see the room. I couldn't see anything in the room, just these things attacking me. And they were telling me to stop. And one of the voices was talking about I had to stop trying to cross spirits over, because I used to say, "Oh, I asked for the light to come down,"
Right.
That's another whole story in itself. So that scared the hell out of me. I went to the hospital that night, and after that, I said, "Okay, I'm never going to do this ask for the light again." And I've steered pretty much clear of it since then. Besides one time in a hotel, we investigated a haunted hotel, and silly me, at the end, I asked for the light to come because spirits were asking for help. And lo and behold, that night, the next day when we went home, I was attacked and back in the hospital. So these days I don't do the ask for the light anymore. So there's something there that in that realm, I see, these lost souls, and then there's something more powerful that keeps them there or oversees them. And they don't seem to like anyone messing with that. So I get warnings all the time. Just today, actually, I uploaded a new Coffee with Spirits video, and at the end, the last message is, "We should kill you." So it's like I get these creepy messages, and at the same time, I get messages of love and peace and angelic stuff. So, I try not to let it bother me or get scared, because I feel if you fear it, then it's all over. I mean, you're going to drive yourself batty if you fear it and try to do this work.
Have you ever brought in a psychic at the same time?
Not at the same time. Well, I had a medium just here last week that I know very well, and that's a whole other story. I'm not big on mediums, but in my entire life, I've met two that I could not explain, and she's one of them. And I met her in Tombstone about a year ago, and we did a session with my box there, and she was, she's like, oh, there's a Ron here. And then next thing you know, the voice through the box says, it's Ron. And then she's like, they're all lining up around this table to take their turn speaking to you. And she's like, they do this with respect. And lo and behold, a couple of minutes later, they're like, we're in line, through the box. So that was pretty cool. And she was at my house a week ago where she tapped into a couple things, but, never anything like nothing scientific or anything. But yeah, I love to do this with, psychics or mediums, or as a matter of fact, I'd like to travel around in an RV and meet up with people and film and do these experiments to try to figure out what's going on, Yeah.
I've got a couple of friends that maybe you should talk to about that, and we can do that off of the air. I wanted to ask you this: that world that is theirs, do you think that they can see your world? The inside of your house. You're there drinking coffee, right? Do you think they are aware of that, or they are completely cut off and they don't even know of you and your atmosphere?
Well, I can tell you this, that over the years I would do experiments like I would hold up a random object and say, can you see what I'm holding?
Right.
And they would name off what I'm holding, like hold up a record album. What am I holding? They would say record. What? I'd point to amplifier, stereo amp. What is that? Amp. I would say, to try to trick them, what color hair do I have? And they would say, you're bald. So
that's crazy.
To me, that they can see.
Right.
And, one of my coffee sessions, I was putting peanut butter on a waffle, and they were like, oh, it looks good.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. And so, and what is, I think what's important to realize here is that it's kind of sad, isn't it? You're drinking coffee, you've got your atmosphere, and they can't access this. Right,
exactly.
They can't.
It almost sounds like it could be the hell, right?
Right.
They see everything we're experiencing and doing, but they cannot participate. And they find out their voice can be heard through devices like I use, and they just want to talk through it, and they want to ask for help. They think that we can help them in some way. So it is sad. It's very sad. There's many a time that I do a session, I walk away teared up. I really get into it.
Yeah. I get the same vibe. The communications that you have, do you have relationships built up? Do you have a recurring spirit?
Yeah, I like to think so. There's certain ones that come through. They seem to change every year or two, though. They tell me they're guides, and they're helping me connect. I've had Ava. Then I had one called Billy, who stuck around for a while, but many of my viewers think he's a demon messing with me. Then the new one just popped up a couple of weeks ago named Ace, and he's come through no matter what app I used or anything I used into it, and he said he's there to help. So, and the funny thing is, there's people all over the world who use, various ITC devices, whether it's a PSP-7 or what have you. And they'll send me a message, and they're freaked out because they're like, oh, my God, they were just asking for you through my box. And so it seems like in the spirit realm, they seem to know of me and ask for me through other people's sessions. So it's kind of crazy. If I sit down and really think about it and really focus on it, it's a little scary. Like, okay, so where is this going to lead, But it's also unexplainable. I can't explain it.
Is there a zone that you won't go into when you're communicating? Is there something that you won't say?
Well, I never go out and seek for evil, so I wouldn't go out and say, oh, can I speak to a demon, or can I speak to something evil? I know there's some people that do that, but that's nothing I want to do. I usually tell them up front, I don't welcome any evil, anything demonic, and that doesn't always work, of course, but yeah, that's about the only thing that I wouldn't do. As a matter of fact, there was one time I'm so bummed that I missed out on it. It's a little bit, some people would probably not agree with it, but a friend of mine who works on the Queen Mary, he runs the paranormal tours, the official, the good ones, Matthew Schultz. He contacted me a couple of years ago, and it was a very sad situation. His sister was basically dying. She was in the hospital, and it was going to be her last night. And he's in San Diego. I'm in Phoenix, about a 6-hour drive. He called me last minute, said, can you head to San Diego with your box? I want to turn it on when she passes. And, she agreed to it, I guess, and everything. He wanted to do this experiment. And that was like going to be something that would be amazing if we got a validation. But I felt a little uneasy with it. It's like, I don't know. But it was a 6-hour drive, so it was late. And I'm like, no, I really can't make it. I'd have to leave right now. But I'd like to see, scientific testing of this, because if you can set this by somebody, who I've had a lot of people actually email me and volunteer. I'm like, it's kind of a little weird, but if you could set this device next to somebody at the moment of their passing, and then they say something that you have agreed upon, like Houdini, when he died, he told if he could come back, he would tell his wife the secret code or whatever that they had.
That's right.
But if you could actually accomplish that would, to me, and to a lot of people, prove without a shadow of a doubt that yes, our soul does go on when we die, and we can communicate with the living. It's crazy, but there's a lot of things I want to try. But as far as what I wouldn't do, I don't ever go out looking for anything evil.
Have you ever had a spirit say, okay, this is Bob, I need you to contact my wife, Mary, and here's her address. Here's her phone number. This is how you get a hold of her.
No, never details. They also have mentioned that they have memories. They've went out of their way to say we have memories. But then they also mentioned they're limited. Their memories aren't clear. So while I've had them say first and last names, like I do a group night, I try to do them every month, where people all over the world can join in for free. They basically do a 15-minute meditation from their home, and I tell them how to do it and what to say, and meet up with their loved ones as they're meditating. And we try to get their loved ones to come through my device that night, and I record about an hour. And through those, we've had first and last names. We've had direct messages that I had no idea. I was like, what is all this stuff coming through? It makes no sense to me. But when people watch it, they're like, oh my God, that was my grandmother. One that always sticks out to me is, it was one of the early ones, and we heard this older woman's voice say, knitting fingerless gloves. And then she also said a name. I don't remember the name. But it turns out the name was the woman who was meditating for her grandmother to come through and give a validation. And she said her grandmother died in a rocking chair while she was knitting fingerless gloves. So to me, that's a validation when you get the name and a detail like that. And instead of, just a medium, telling you, yeah, your grandmother says this, they can actually hear it coming through a device. So that's pretty amazing to me.
I want you to share with me, because you've had literally tens of thousands of connections, and your YouTube channel is absolutely amazing. Just hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of it. Take us through some of your more favorite conversations and why they stand out for you.
Okay. One was just recent. It was in the morning. I don't know if it was a coffee session, but it was in the morning, and I had the box running on my kitchen counter, and I noticed it was unusually quiet. And I was running an app called Vortex, made by Matt Payne in the UK. And the vortex basically scans internet radio, much like the SCD-1 does. But it was scanning, and you can see the channel numbers changing, but it was just silent. So I'm like, what's going on? So I waited, and then I started to hear what sounded like someone taking a bath. You can hear bath water. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. I kept it going, and then all of a sudden a woman's voice came through very soft, and she was chatting like a direct conversation, and you'd hear the bath water as she's talking, and she mentioned that she had tuberculosis. She said TB, and she went on, and we were talking, and I then moved the box into the living room, and it kind of went silent again, and I was like, okay, is anybody there? And you hear this evil voice say, turn it off, right? Really clear and loud. So I shut it off out of respect for that, you know. I always try to respect the voices that come through. So I later look up, and I'm like, you know, on Google, what is baths? Does baths have anything to do with tuberculosis? And I guess back then, one of the forms of treatment was giving the patient cold baths. So to me, I think that I connected with a woman who died of tuberculosis, and somehow she was telling me or reliving that moment or whatever when she was in the bath getting treatment. And that was such a quiet, direct session. That's one of my recent favorites, but there's been so many. I'm trying to remember other ones. It's been very hard for them to get them to validate a heaven. You know, I've asked so many times, have you seen heaven? And have you been to heaven? And usually what happens is they'll just repeat the word heaven. They won't say, yes, it's real, or no, it's not. They've mentioned Jesus and God. But a couple weeks ago, they validated, I forgot the exact wording, but it was like, it is true, heaven is real, something like that. So that was the first time I ever got that kind of validation where they flat out said heaven is real. Now, of course, you know, you have the crowd that says, well, those are just demons tricking you. So, you know, do we believe every word that comes through? Probably not, but it is still nice to hear, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, the sad part is somebody has died here, right? Somebody's on the other side, and it could be tragic, it could be natural, it could be hit by a car, light, you know, we don't know. But certainly they are not here with us. And it seems that they don't know where they are, right? That's
exactly.
It feels like somebody's confused, and that is the melancholy part of it. You know, it's very sad. It's like a gray sepia tone picture, you know, that I see in my mind.
Yeah.
But the other part is children. So it's one thing to have an adult on the other side, right? Okay, yes. They may be able to deal with it. But it's the children, and how does that affect you when you're communicating with a child?
Yeah, it's another one of those things where do I think it's really a child, or is it something else pretending to be? I don't know, but I've had many instances where back 4 or 5 years ago, I would record an EVP, just, you know, from thin air EVP, and I'd get a child's voice, and then I would get messages saying there was a little girl named Nancy and her parents living in my house as spirits. And they would talk to me through the boxes as I turned them on. This was 4 years ago or so. And sometimes to this day, I still get Nancy in a little girl voice coming through. And just recently, you know, I would say, who's here, whatever, and how old are you? And then there was a voice of a little girl saying, I'm only 10. So it's a mystery to me, because the kids, the voices, when they say they're children, they don't sound upset or depressed. They sound happy. And there was a time I was using one of Anthony Sanchez's apps, Vocibus, and I was getting the most direct connection, unbelievable. And, you know, the bank of voice, I think that app used phonetic sounds, and then the theory of spirits can use those phonemes, the phonetic sounds, to form words.
Right. And
I think they were more based around a little girl-sounding voice. But even so, the spirit coming through would tell me she was a little girl. And she would just say the most amazing, love-filled things to me, and it would make me tear up. And those are some from like a couple years ago, and they're just amazing. I watched some the other night, and I was like, wow, those were really intense. Like there was a feature of the app where it would play old-timey music, so I would turn it on, and I'd turn it off, and then she would say, turn off the music, I like it better without, that kind of stuff. She'd call me by my first and last name. She would call out to my dogs. I'd be like, can you see my dogs? And she'd yell out to my dog, baby, and tell me she loved my dogs. So you build up this little, what you feel is a relationship with some of these spirits who are regulars. You asked that question earlier. So, yeah, that's another example of that I feel you can get to know these spirits who are coming through. It's crazy, but it's real.
Now,
and it's hard for many to believe.
Right. That's
Yeah.
fascinating. She knew your first and last name. Is it because you told it to her and she remembered it, or she knew it?
Well, a lot of sessions I'll start out and say, I'm Steve Huff. I come as a friend. I come in peace. I mean no harm.
Right.
And so, they could hear that. But a lot of times I'll turn it on and I'll be like, hello, and I'm like, hi, and they'll be like, Mr. Huff. Like they know me immediately. So I really don't know if they're here in my house hanging out or if they're that other world that's all gray and dark. I don't know if it's a mixture. There's still a lot of answers that we don't have. And I feel we could do this for 20 years and not have all of the answers. Because probably we're not supposed to know them.
Yeah, we're going to hit a break here in 60 seconds. So let me ask you this. Have you contacted anybody from the scientific community, your local college? Have you asked them to come out and try to figure out what's going on?
No, but I would love to. I just don't have those connections. But if I knew anybody, I would love to try that.
There's a new thing out, Stephen. You should check it out. It's called the telephone. It's amazing. It's
I just wouldn't know who to call.
Somebody will pick up on the other end and say hello. It's really no. I'm being sarcastic right now, but yeah, I would be. The reason why I'm suggesting this is because what you have is obviously communicating with something, and it's not your neighbor. It's not your neighbor. It's not people down the street. This isn't ham radio communication with Australia. This is something going on, and I think scientifically somebody should actually come back and try to figure this out.
That would be awesome. I don't think they will figure it out. I don't think it's possible, but I would love for someone to try that in a scientific manner.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating to me. All right, let's take a break right here. When we come back, I want to know if you've caught a spirit in a lie. I know that there's some deception going on with this too as well, because they're going to mess with you. So we'll figure that out when we come back. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Stephen Huff, Huff Paranormal. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter,
but listening to Jimmy Church will.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I had gout in both my knees, and it's gone.
Well, I'm pretty stupid. I should have ordered it 15 years ago. Best thing I ever got in my. It's the most effective product that I've ever bought in my life.
He had eczema on his hand, and it cracked for years. He did anything from doctor, every cream, everything. And 3 months on the veggies and fruit, it was gone.
They're just awesome. They keep asking me, what am I doing? I told them what I did with my cholesterol. I had the blood test, right? And it went down 100 points. 262, now it's 162. Everything is just perfect.
Call now to find out how to get your free month supply of Balance of Nature. Call 800-2468-751. That's 800-2468-751. Call now, 800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com.
Use promo code TSL.
Would odors, mold, and mildew describe your basement or crawl space? It doesn't have to be that way. Transform them into a fresh, healthy, usable one with the technologically advanced Wave moisture control units. The computerized operation maximizes moisture control and also expels harmful radon, combustion gases, and numerous other pollutants. Dehumidifiers are old technology that do nothing for air quality and waste energy. Wave units are intelligent, self-monitoring, do not need maintenance, and will save you hundreds in electricity. Wave units are still running effectively over 15 years. They've been tested and installed in public and military housing and by property managers nationwide. Buy a unit now, and if your home is not fresher and drier, you can return it for a full refund for up to 12 months. What have you got to lose? Call now. 1-888-618-WAVE. 1-888-618-WAVE. Or visit mydryhome.com. That's mydryhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Stephen Huff, Huff Paranormal, the Wonder Box. This portion of the show is brought to you by Life Change Tea. Just go right now, click on the banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. It'll take you straight to getthetea.com. Just mention Jimmy when you order, either over the phone or online, and you're going to get yourself some free shipping. And I do want to remind everybody, you just heard the Studio Dome commercial right there. We are giving away a Studio Dome system next week, next Thursday. Just go to our membership area, get registered, go and do it. Next Thursday night, we're going to give away a Studio Dome package. It is a stereo Bluetooth system, 2 SBB2 speakers in a hard shell case, all of the power supply cables, everything there, courtesy of Studio Dome. So there's just a few days left to get in. Go and register in our membership area. Wow, Steve, I didn't even think about this. I wonder if we could use a stereo Bluetooth system to communicate with.
It's possible.
I never thought about that.
I added a Bluetooth receiver to the Wonderbox once to send, the apps wirelessly. That was pretty cool. But yeah, there's all kinds of things. I think Anthony Sanchez uses Bluetooth in his apps as well.
Man,
so,
Anthony is on top of his game. One thing.
Oh, yeah.
I'll say this about Anthony. He's probably listening right now. He is much smarter than he leads on. I think he's got it. He's got so many different really cool products that he designs, and where his head is at. I think he's deceiving all of us with his true genius.
I believe that too. I always say he's a genius.
He freaks me out, man. Now, how do you know when a spirit is telling you the truth? Could it all be deception? And have you caught somebody in a lie and called them out on it?
Okay, well, that's a good question. It's a valid point because technically, like I said, are we to believe everything that comes through? And what I've found is, when you put yourself out there doing what I do, you're going to attract people who love you. You're going to attract people who hate you. You're going to attract skeptics, who think you're faking. But you also attract the very religious, and they're all telling me all the time, you're only speaking with demons, and they're lying to you because they want to trick you. So I think about this, and I'm like, okay, well, over the years, I've had them tell me they're ghosts, angels, spirits, and demons. So when there's demons around, they're not shy about it. They'll tell me they want to kill me or hurt me. They'll say demons here. They'll say the devil. So if they're saying sometimes they're an angel or they're a spirit, how is that tricking me? What is the end game for them to say they're a spirit? I don't see the end game there. So I don't believe they're all demons. Are they evil? I believe so. Do some of them lie? I believe so. I can't validate any lies they told to me, but I can say that sometimes a spirit will say something like, I'll say, what is your name? And then I'll hear, for example, a John. And then this happened a couple times. Then you hear another spirit in the background saying, he's lying to you. So sometimes I'll say, what's your name? And I'll get I don't know, or I don't remember. So I'm thinking, well, maybe they just make up names because they always hear me asking what their name is. I tell them what my name is. So it's hard to say. I do feel that some do lie. But as far as my experience, it's nothing that has harmed me or caused any problems for me. The problem is, even when, I ask for my father. Now, my father's name has been coming through for so long now. I've had them tell me he walks beside me, that he helps with the connections, all kinds of things. And, if I say, can I connect with my father? I just put a video up 3 or 4 videos ago where I attempted this. And I'm looking at it right now, and it's interesting because it has 666 thumbs up. So that's kind of weird. Somebody go thumbs that up. But I asked for my father, and I say, we all miss you. And then out of silence, you hear, I'll be fine, or I'm fine, or something. And then I felt a little jolt to that antenna, and I jerked back, my arm shakes. And then they continue to tell me he's coming. They'll say his name. And then I sensed someone walking right behind the box. It's weird. I can kind of see this thing. So I said, somebody's right behind it. And the message was, it's your dad. So now I'm like, is this really true? Because if true, that's freaking blowing my mind if my father's spirit is really here.
Right.
But they could be lying to me. So I also take that into consideration. I'm not the type who will listen to that and say, my father talked to me, my father was here. I say, well, it's possible, but it's also possible that it wasn't. So I don't get too emotionally invested in that kind of thing. But I wish I knew the truth. There's no way to really validate that because we can't physically see them walking around. We can't have a conversation with them like we have, like me and you are right now.
Right.
It's usually, like you mentioned earlier, a little confusing. Sometimes they say weird things. Sometimes they're as direct as can be. So it's hard to say. The fact is that if they are what they say they are, energy, they don't have a brain. They don't have a voice box. They don't have all these physical features that we have as a living human being. So how they speak to us is through energy of some sort. So maybe it's very hard for them to do. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting.
You remember
the whole lie truth thing?
You remember the old cartoon with the 2 dogs? Hey Bob, hey Sam. And they're punching in the time clock, and they go sit up on the edge of the cliff, and they're waiting.
Oh my God, I do remember that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what this kind of reminds me of with you. When you fire up things in the morning, you're going over and you're firing up the coffee, and getting your things going. Have you ever had a spirit, immediately go, hey man, good morning, Steve. We've been waiting.
Similar, not in those exact words, but they will sometimes say when I first turn it on that they're coming, they're ready, that the longer I leave, it usually takes 3 to 4 minutes, maybe 5, And it seems like they start filling. Today's session, they said your house is filling, like it's filling up with them because they're starting to all come in. So yeah, they do. Sometimes they'll say good morning. Sometimes they'll say good night. Sometimes they'll end it with "we love you." Sometimes they'll end it with "I want to kill you." So I mean, it's the whole gamut of responses. But they do seem to have an intelligence about them, at least a lot of them, not all of them. So that's another part of the mystery. You know, why are some intelligent and direct, and why are some, you know, a lot of people say, well, why do they speak in riddles? Some do, you know. It's hard to say. Now, does that mean, you know, another theory is, okay, if you're alive as a human and say you're mentally disabled or you have a brain issue, when you die, does that go with you? I wouldn't think so, but, you know, who knows? I don't know.
That is an amazing timing to Twitter right now, that statement of yours, because I'm getting some questions in here, and one of them is, do they have their clothes on? Right? I mean, you know, what are they wearing? Literally, are they wearing what they had on when they died? You know,
that's an interesting question. Yeah.
Do you ever ask?
I can't answer that with 100% certainty. I can tell you my experience. 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I don't know when it was, I started to get more in tune, and I would start seeing these things in my mind, you know. And one day I heard an older man's voice come through Joe's box or something like that. And I just saw this vision of this older guy wearing jeans, suspenders, a flannel shirt. He had a white hair, white mustache. So I said, "Are you wearing jeans and suspenders and a flannel shirt?" And the voice said, "Yes, I am." So I was like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe that was validation." So if that spirit was telling me the truth, I don't know if they're physically wearing it, because they say they're not a physical body, but maybe they're projecting that image of themselves, how they were, so some of us can see or get in tune with them. You know, I'm not really sure. But then there's other times. One time I was laying in bed, and I felt this extreme electricity at like 2 a.m. It woke me up, and I felt like someone was pushing me down on the bed, and I was just electric. I look up, and I see this blue, like electric form. I physically saw it. It wasn't in my mind, hovering above the bed right over me. And it was like it wasn't a human shape. It was just like a weird shape, and it was hovering. So I was like, okay, I'm awake. I know I'm awake. I'm not dreaming. So I went to go touch it. I stayed calm. And when I touched it, it just like disintegrated and vanished. And that whole feeling that I had over me was gone. So that's another mystery to me, like that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's the form they're in now, and somehow I was able to see that, and they can project to us, maybe telepathically, what they were like in life. You know, that's my theory, possibly. Yeah.
Are they ever asking for help? And if they do, are you helpless? I mean, what can you possibly do?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a time when I'd say 80% of what came through was help us, save us.
Oh,
and that's when I started researching light workers, they call themselves, I believe. And there's a book I read called When Ghosts Speak, and I was fascinated because the woman, as I was reading it, her experiences were mirroring what I've been getting in messages, and she says she can see them and talk to them. And it was so spot on with what I was experiencing. I read the book front to back, I think, in a day. And she said that she gets asked for help. And she says they're earthbound spirits, and she creates the light for them, and they can walk in and move on to heaven. And so she describes a technique for trying this. So I'd started trying this 3-4 years ago, and I would say, okay, I'm envisioning the light. And after time, we would get some validations of, you know, I would say, okay, I'm calling for the light for you. Walk into it. Can you see it? And then they would start saying, we see the light, and we're going, thank you. They would thank me. And again, you know, you got to say, well, is this real? Are they telling the truth? But I went with, okay, I'm going to trust them, and they're telling the truth. So the more I did this, that's when I started getting in trouble with these attacks, telling me to stop doing that. So that really scared me to death, those 2 attacks. So I no longer try that. But does it work? I don't know. I mean, anything's possible. Anything is possible. After all I've experienced, I always say that now. Anything is possible.
Yeah, totally. Do they ever project an image of themselves to you? So you can say, it's Mary. Do you ever get an image of them projected to you?
Yeah, that goes back to what we were talking about, where I think that while they're energy, they can project that image of what they were once like.
Right.
I've seen a little girl. I've seen a tall, skinny, older woman here. I've seen a woman with scars all over her face. So yeah, that has happened. It doesn't happen to me all the time. It seems to happen on group nights when I do those group nights, and I'll try to describe what I see in case anybody watching, maybe it's somebody that they're connected to. So that does happen. It's pretty crazy how it happens. And, I welcome it. I think it's amazing.
Now, you described earlier, I didn't go back to this, so I'm going to do it now. You described earlier, the copper headband and the waistband, and I think you said something on your hand or your thumb or your finger. But you almost described that as a singular event. Have you done that again?
I've done it 2 or 3 times, and 2 times I became sick over the following days after using it. And everybody told me, everybody that cares about me says, don't use that, throw it away. And I was actually making it, originally I made it to test it, and I was going to send it off to Nick Groff because he uses a Wonder Box.
Right.
And I was like, you guys give this a try, but then I decided I'm not going to even mess with it after I became sick. I don't want to cause anybody any problems if that was the cause. Was it coincidence? Maybe, but, the sessions I've done with that connected to me were pretty intense. So yeah, I haven't used it. It's actually in my back room in the closet, so I still have it.
What do you do? One thing that I've seen a lot of criticism about you and your work, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. You probably deal with it daily. I do. I deal with it daily.
Yeah.
How do you answer critics these days?
I basically don't anymore. There's no use in. There's a difference between a skeptic, which I welcome. I was skeptical at one time in life. I totally understand that you need to have an experience for yourself that you cannot explain in order to believe in something like this, because, there's a lot of people who just can't wrap their head around that this is real. So that's fine. I don't try to convert people. Then there's people who just go around on YouTube or social media and make up lies and say, oh, he's a fake, he does this, he does that, when they don't even know me and they have no clue about what I'm doing. So those people, in the early days, it used to bug me and I used to interact with them, but that really leads you nowhere when you try to, debate people like that.
Right.
So I use, people call them haters and all that, which I have plenty of. But I just ignore them because to me, those people, the hater type of people, if you give them attention or mention them, like I have 150,000 subscribers almost right now. So if I go on and mention, oh, this person so-and-so is attacking me, that's just going to give them attention. And I'm not going to do that anymore. So skeptics I will talk to, and I'll say, I even recommend to skeptics who email me. Some of them are a little harsh in tone. I say, well, why don't you try, I put up plans how to make a $200 mini portal that totally enhances apps or radios, and you can make it yourself in 10 minutes and be out $200 and see for yourself. I said, why don't you experiment with yourself, use the correct technique. I'll, give you tips on what to do and see how it goes, and let me know. So I welcome skeptics because as I told you, I'm welcome to, try and to get this figured out. It's all a mystery. So all I can tell people now is, what you mentioned earlier, something's coming through of intelligence that can answer you directly when they want to, and there's no explanation, because something like what I use, the Wonder Box, with, say, an app like the SCD1 going in, or even let's take away that whole internet radio thing and just a bank of sounds. And you're getting direct answers to your questions with your name said. How do you explain what's going on? It's very hard. I even put one time I did it more for fun. I looked up on YouTube a video. It was 2 hours of cat meows. So I'm like, what would happen if I just played cat meows into the Wonderbox and asked questions? So I recorded it, and I'm like, okay, is anybody here? Can you use these sounds to talk? And you can hear them trying to form words out of the cat meows. And then I think one of them was talking about how hard it was. It's hard. And I was like, oh my God, they're actually, that's what led to us doing tests. We did a test to prove that they manipulate audio to speak.
Right.
Yeah, Matt Payne and I, he created a little app just for us where it had something like 100 words programmed in, but it would play random words. But when the word would play, it would pop up on the screen, so I know what word is going into the box at that time.
Right.
So I would say, okay, what is your name? And through the box, it says Roy. But on the screen, the word says tree. And then I would ask, something, I forgot the exact questions, but I'd ask another question, like, how old are you? You might get a number reply, but the word going in is like dog. So they're manipulating and changing that audio to answer you. And how they're doing that is, I believe, partly the reverb and some other things, the energy, and part the operator. I think the operator who's using a device, any device, has to have some kind of connection or an open mind in order to receive communication, because spirits talk a lot about trust, and they often tell me, we trust you, and I say, well, I trust you too, which people say I'm stupid to say that, but, I show respect to them. I say I'm there with love and care, mean no harm. I'm here to bridge the gap between our world and theirs, and it seems to work for me. But yet I can give this probably to a hardcore skeptic, which I'd like to see. I don't think they would get as deep of a communication. So, that's why I said a box like this is not for everybody. I feel if you're in tune, if you're open to it, people who do this work, I think you can get amazing communication. And if you're closed off and you're like, oh, spirits are fake, ghosts are not real, then it might not happen for you. But with that said, what got me down this road is me trying to debunk a PSB-7. So who knows?
Yeah, right. It scares the crap out of me to hear you describe it like that, though, because it's obvious that it's again, it's not somebody messing with you. I'm talking about a real person that is hearing you talk in Boulder, Colorado somehow, and is speaking. No, this is not what's going on. There is a communication going on.
Possible.
Right. Do you ever, are you going to go to Contact in the Desert, for example? Do you ever go out to different conferences?
Like paranormal conferences?
Yeah.
No, the funny thing is I've never been to one. I was just recently invited to a couple, but I'd love to attend. I'd love to do
Man,
those.
You need to come out to Contact in the Desert and bring a Wonderbox with you. You need to come out and hang out with us. All right. You know what, Rita? You need to talk to Stephen off the air. If you want to come out, we'll talk to you about it off the air. But I would love,
definitely,
because we have our audience. We get together. There's a big conference coming up in a few weeks here in Southern California. But if you showed up with that at one of our get-togethers, I think it would be a fascinating night, and it would be really cool to see this in action in real time. I'm fascinated with it.
Yeah, I would love to. Again, I could drive there. I'm in Phoenix, so I can't believe.
All right, we'll talk about that off the air. You should see Twitter right now. Yes. But now, one last question: have you ever had a dead day? Is there a day when the spirits just aren't connecting or there, or do they have a bad day?
That's a good question, because when I first started, I'd have days where I was getting amazing communication. Then the next day I'd turn it on and I'd get nothing. And I'd get like, well, what happened? Is it me? Sometimes I'd go 2-3 days. And then as of about a year ago, I'd say I've gone now over a year. Now, I don't do them every day, but at least 3 or 4 times a week. So over a year now, I've never not had a direct communication of some sort. Some days it's not as direct, like I told you about the session with the woman in the bath and tuberculosis. That was amazing to me. And then today, the one I uploaded, there was a little more, it was a little disconnected, it wasn't as connected as usual, but I still had a lot of validations. So there are days, I think that there's times of days that work better. I think that the more the operator using the device focuses, the better that it is. I feel if I'm in a room that's quiet, dim the lights, and I really focus and try to envision who's around me, I think it gets really good. And if I'm just turning it on sometimes for fun or somebody's over, then it's not as good. But yeah, there's ups and downs, but lately it's been pretty solid.
Where can everybody get a hold of you, maybe even talk about getting a Wonder Box? What's the best way to communicate with you?
Best places are my website, huffparanormal.com. If you're interested, there's articles there, there's blog posts there, there's photo evidence there that I've taken over the years. And in the menu, there's info on the Wonder Box. And then there's my YouTube channel, Huff Paranormal on YouTube, where I have like 440 videos now spanning several years where you can see the progress made from the early, static-filled boxes to today. And then finally on Facebook at Huff Paranormal. I post there every day as well.
Fascinating conversation tonight, Steve. Go do some communication. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see if we can get you out to Contact in the Desert. Is the Wonder Box intimidated by, a crowd? Maybe when I'm saying, 10, 20, 30 people in the room, does that affect anything?
I don't think so, because we've used it in Tombstone at the old Undertaker's building, which is now run by Sister Paranormal. And they do tours of the building, and I've brought the Wonder Box there 2 or 3 times, or twice, I think. And the last time it was so connected, the group of strangers who I didn't even know, they didn't know I was coming, they were playing poker, and they assigned a spirit to each player. So when it was the turn for one player, they'd ask their spirit, should I discard any of these cards? And they would say, the 9.
So
the spirits were actually playing poker, and everybody was freaking out, like fascinated. And when the one person won, the spirit shouted something through the box, all excited that they won. It was crazy, but that's a really active spot too. So who knows?
There you go. Thank you so much for the conversation, Steve, and everybody.
Thank you.
Go to his YouTube channel and go down that rabbit hole, and you can thank me later. Thank you so much, Steve, and have a great rest of your evening, my friend. Great conversation.
You too, Jimmy. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Huff, everybody. Again, it is SteveHuffPhoto.com, HuffParanormal.com. If you go over to our website, all the links are right there. Now, you need to, after the show tonight, go to bed tonight watching one of his videos. Guaranteed good time. Thank you so much, Steve. This is Fade to Black. I'll open up the phone lines. It is Fader night. I do want to talk to you. I'll open up the phone lines when I get back. Stay with us.
Hey, what up, y'all? Sugar Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I had gout in both my knees, and it's gone.
Well, I'm pretty stupid. I should have ordered it 15 years ago. Best thing I ever got in my. It's the most effective product that I've ever bought in my life.
He had eczema on his hand, and it cracked for years. He did anything from doctor, every cream, everything. And 3 months on the veggies and fruit, it was gone.
They're just awesome. They keep asking me, what am I doing? I told them what I did with my cholesterol. I had the blood test, right? And it went down 100 points. 262, now it's 162. Everything is just perfect.
Call now to find out how to get your free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 800-2468-751. That's 800-2468-751. Call now, 800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com.
Use promo code TSL.
Would odors, mold, and mildew describe your basement or crawl space? It doesn't have to be that way. Transform them into a fresh, healthy, usable one with the technologically advanced Wave moisture control units. The computerized operation maximizes moisture control and also expels harmful radon, combustion gases, and numerous other pollutants. Dehumidifiers are old technology that do nothing for air quality and waste energy. Wave units are intelligent, self-monitoring, do not need maintenance, and will save you hundreds in electricity. Wave units are still running effectively over 15 years. They've been tested and installed in public and military housing and by property managers nationwide. Buy a unit now, and if your home is not fresher and drier, you can return it for a full refund for up to 12 months. What have you got to lose? Call now. 1-888-618-WAVE. 1-888-618-WAVE. Or visit mydryhome.com. That's mydryhome.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Steve Huff, thank you so much. Huff Paranormal, HuffParanormal.com. Go to his YouTube channel. It was I'm going to say this is really funny, but it was a few months ago. We're here in the bunker working, and Rita's down the hall in her studio. And I was going through and listening to Steve's videos while I was working, and I'm yelling down the hall, "You got to go to Steve's website. Just click on a video. Just click on one. Coffee with spirits. Just amazing. So do it tonight after the show. Just go and get to his YouTube channel and pick out a couple of things. Turn down the lights." And check that out. It's impressive. It will really flip you out. There's something going on there. I can't put my finger on it. I've talked about it so much that there's something with electronics and the ability to have the spirit or who, whatever it is on the other side that's out there. Because it's electronic. There's something there that connects electronically. That's how, EVPs are recorded, and I get that. But when you take it to the next level, what Steve is doing, which is in real time, and the P7 and the other spare boxes out there, I get that. But very irritating, and to me, it's unlistenable. It's fun in short bursts. But what Steve does, this is a real-time communication and conversation that is going down. They're just absolutely fascinating videos to watch. So do go and check it out. It is Fader night. It is Thursday night. I know that we were very limited on time tonight to have Steve come in, and we had Gregg Housh earlier and Jon Rappoport, and there wasn't any time for phone calls. So I'll do that now. Okay, it's Thursday night, 323-825-5045. I'll go ahead and open up the phone lines, a couple of quick phone calls before we get out of here. I was, and I still am, very upset about what is going on with Barrett Brown, and I know that for me, it comes down to an emotional thing, because journalism and writing and the way that he was convicted, and he took it on the chin and went to prison for something that was absolutely 100% ridiculous. And for him to turn around and get arrested today, he's just a journalist. It is just so irritating for me. I'm just I'm beside myself, and I'm going to stay vocal about this, and I always have been. But this is something that just cannot go away. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy, it's Brent from Prosper, Texas. How are you?
Hey, Brent. What did you think about that show?
It's fantastic, man. Hey, I do have a question, though. With the ghost talk, why don't we ever see, like, ghosts from further back? Like, say, caveman days or whatever?
No, it's a good question. That's I've talked to people about this before, right? That we we've been here for millions of years, right? And certainly Homo sapiens been on the planet for 150,000 years, right? The version of you and I that is here now. Why don't we communicate? Well, okay, there's language issues. That's the first thing. Do spirits, are we attracting only spirits that speak English because they can understand what we are saying? You know what I mean? As opposed to a Russian ghost, right? There's that. Or somebody that died in ancient Egypt or and I hear you. I totally understand. That's a good question that I think we should ask some of these professionals. What would okay, let me ask you this, Brent. The caveman ghost, right? The one that doesn't have a language. How would he communicate? He would see you or I with the spirit box or the wonder box, right? How would he turn around and communicate with us? What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying even with the spirit box or any of that. I mean, just seeing one, you don't see it, you don't hear about it.
Oh, I got you. Right. Well, we do have different period clothing ghosts. I've had many guests on the show that have talked about that. Civil War situations or World War I, ghosts. But that's interesting. Why we don't see somebody wearing animal skins and carrying a club, right?
Well, it seems like it always goes back to about the Civil War, or maybe every once in a while you hear about the Revolutionary War, but you don't hear anything before that. Well, no, that's not true. I guess you hear about Greek soldiers or Roman soldiers, but past that, nothing.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Why do you think that is?
Well, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't either.
That's your...
No, that's hey! I'm just like you, man. Just like you. That's a great question, and I've got to remember that. I've got to. Why didn't you send me an email? Why couldn't you text me this question tonight?
I don't know. Maybe I was slacking. Hey, have a great weekend, man.
Yeah, you too, Brent. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Great. I got to hear the answer to that. I do. I've got to hear the answer to that one. That's a really, really good point, a valid point. And how would it be grunting? Right? That's, man, and Steve is gone. That's a great question. I wonder if he's ever had a spirit that was grunting or trying to communicate in Neanderthal talk. I don't know. Wow, what a great question. Thank you for that. Okay, 323-825-5045. Here's some of the news that you know absolutely nothing about. Russian President Vladimir Putin and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe on Thursday, today, called on North Korea and other countries to avoid behavior or rhetoric that could increase tensions around Pyongyang's nuclear program. They were speaking at a news conference in Moscow after holding talks. Putin and Abe said that they had agreed to cooperate closely to help try to diffuse the tensions around the secretive Asian state, that both wanted to see a resumption of six-party international talks with North Korea. Very interesting. Things have been ratcheted up, my friends. We have definitely pushed this to the brink. I'll say it one more time. I just don't see things kicking off there. Kim Jong Fatty Fat has got a good thing going there for himself, right? He's not going to want to mess that up. I had read, I think it was yesterday or the day before, they're trying to clamp down on the way he spends his money and who he's getting stuff. I think he's got 2 yachts on order, like real boats, like 150-foot crazy things. And maybe I read it wrong, maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but they've stopped delivery of these 2 boats. Yeah. Josie just said, maybe all of the ancient spirits reincarnated long ago. And that thought right there, Josie, that's a great point, totally popped into my head. That just maybe the cycles have gone through with spirits, right? And those that are out there are recent, right? That the process has gone through. Stephen also brought up a very, very good point tonight about, is this like purgatory? Are they in between heaven and hell and they're like in a holding pattern? It could be just that we're looking at that one phase. He brought up another point. Let's not forget about this. When I asked him if he had developed relationships, right? Well, and he said that he had, but I think he also said that they weren't ongoing, that they've all ended. So are these spirits, moving on? Have they moved on? Right? It's not like he has communicated with anybody. I think he alluded to this. Somebody that's a spirit that's, you know what, man, I've been here for 40 years and I don't know what's going on. There's that point too as well. John Porter just said, are there any spirit communications before electricity? Again, great point. Great point. It sounded like to me with Stephen. Now, is this, when you go and watch his videos, the voices that you hear, to me, feel current, feeling modern. You understand what I'm saying? You have to go and watch the videos. It doesn't, the accents aren't out of place. It feels today. It feels current. You need to really go and check out his YouTube channel. Absolutely. And let me know what you think. Shoot me an email and contact Stephen as well. I would like to ask to speak to Nelson Mandela. Yes, I know, right? Absolutely. Okay, where am I? I didn't get an update on this. Let me see if let me mute this. I want to get an update on something before I talk about this next. Okay, yep, it happened. Okay, there you go. Arkansas has executed its 4th inmate in a week. tonight. 18 years ago, Kenneth Williams had escaped from an Arkansas prison and killed Cecil Boren at his home just a couple of miles away from the prison. Williams was executed tonight at the same prison. It looks like, well, obviously, all of his final court appeals had failed, and he was executed. This is, again, it's the fourth person that Arkansas has executed in the last 8 days. It's a compressed timeline here that they're trying to get all of these out of the way, all of these executions out of the way, because the lethal injection drugs that are used are expiring, and the suppliers of these drugs don't want their products used in executions. It's absolutely nuts what Arkansas is doing now. It's not nuts that the executions are happening. And in our society today, it feels weird to have the death penalty. But when you go back and look at some of these specific cases, like Kenneth Williams, oh, man, it feels strange. But there you go. He literally escaped from prison, killed Cecil Boren at his home just a couple of miles away from the prison. Now he's back, and tonight he was executed at that very same prison. There you go. There were questions about whether this was actually going to happen, and it was time to go off during the show tonight. And there you go. It actually happened. Google Maps. Google Maps already lets you know when parking at your destination might be difficult. But the app's latest navigation feature aims to make things even easier, even after you arrived. Now, check this out. The helpful parking location features revealed last month have just become official, meaning Google Maps on Android and iOS Apple devices will now remember where you are parked, where your car is once you reach your destination. And on Apple iPhones, because I've got one now, there it is. It's even literally a no-brainer on Apple iOS. On Android, users simply need to tap the blue dot once they've parked their car and hit Save Your Parking to drop a pin right there where you have parked in Google Maps. Tapping the pin label brings up another card where you can set a reminder to pay the parking meter, snap a picture where your car is parked, share your car's location, or, pretty much just jot down some parking notes. But users for Apple, well, you've got a similar experience, but you don't actually have to remember to drop the pin first. Trip on this. If your phone is connected to the car via Bluetooth or USB, Google Maps takes advantage of a feature built for Apple that automatically tags your car's location once your phone disconnects from the vehicle. Now, how frightening is that? Now, this isn't for the people that just can't remember where your car is parked. I'm talking about your location is automatically updated the second you turn off your car and the Bluetooth is disconnected. Is that getting to a frightening level of surveillance? This isn't for the person that isn't smart enough to remember where their car is parked. That's not what I'm talking about. There are certainly a number of those out there, and I could be one of them. But having your destination, bam, locked in, you turn off the car, disconnect your Bluetooth, unplug your USB, you're marked. You are marked. They know exactly where you parked. Isn't that frightening? Now, I'm not saying that this isn't useful. I remember, I'll tell you a little story. Go to a Laker game, and this is 1994. Go to a Laker game. And I go out there with a friend of mine, and he had just bought a new SUV. He bought it like that day or the day before. And so we take it down. It's to the Forum, not to Staples Center. It wasn't even built yet. And we go to the Laker game. And when we are done, We walk out of the forum, with the forum parking lot's massive, and we walk to the section where his car was, and we're looking, and it's gone. We're walking up and down the aisles, and we're like, man, and we switch to the next section of the parking lot. We're looking, can't find this brand new SUV. Brand new. Which had big tires on it, and it was, it was an obvious thing, and we can't find it. We ended up walking around the forum, which took, to go circuit. Could not find it. And we go up, we find the LAPD, and we walk up to them and tell them that his car has been stolen. So we're going through the process of all of this and what kind of car it was and his ID, and we're going through all of this. And now it's probably 2 hours later that we get all of this done. And we're bummed out, and we're walking around the forum, and I think at that point we had resolved to either calling friends or calling for a cab. And we look out. All the cars have now left the forum. There's his SUV sitting in the parking lot all by itself. Forgot where he parked the car. It really happens. I got to admit, I had forgotten myself. Now we get in the car, we go back, we find the police, we tell them that the car's not stolen. Here we are, and we drove home. And now I'm telling you about a real world experience where we forgot where we parked the car, thought we had looked everywhere for it, reported the car stolen. Turns out it was there. Now, in that application, in the parking lot of the forum or another, huge place, I get that. I get it. That's where you would use this. But you just don't want to have this automatic and having it just stored. It feels creepy to me. It just doesn't feel right. You get it? Okay. All right. Where am I? It will take the military to stop North Korea's nuclear weapons program, a majority of voters now believe. Now, listen to what I'm about to say to you. And they tend to favor the United States taking that action. Now, that's according to the latest national Fox News poll of registered voters. I have said after this last election cycle, I will never read another poll. The polls lie. They just absolutely, and out of everybody posting a poll, it's Fox News, who came out against all of this polling and discounted poll results, right? So here we have this, that it's going to take military force to stop nuclear weapons in North Korea, and it's going to take military action from the United States. And Fox decided to publish this information. So here, I went a step further. This is everything in this Fox News poll about this. Listen to this. 51% said that U.S. military action will be required to keep the rogue nation from continuing its nuclear weapons program, while 36% think diplomacy alone can stop it. But the poll goes further. By a 53 to 39% margin, voters favor the United States military using force to keep North Korea from making further advancements on nukes. Now, North Korea is seen as the greatest immediate threat to the United States, according to this poll. Some 38% feel that way, while 25% think, are you ready, that ISIS is the biggest threat. And then the poll goes further to say that 18% Russia is the biggest threat. Meanwhile, 42% of voters oppose the Iran nuclear agreement. 35% support it, and 23% are unable to give an opinion. The agreement eases the United States sanctions for 10 years in exchange for Iran stopping its nuclear program over that time period. In September 2015, when the deal was first made, 56% opposed it. Now, this is where it gets whack. The Fox News poll, as alarming as these numbers are, and as frightening of thoughts are that I've just projected onto you, that this is the feeling of the nation, this is where it goes south. The Fox News poll is based on landline and cell phone interviews with 1,009 randomly chosen registered voters nationwide. It's only 1,000 people. It's 1,009. They want to claim it's random and that it's nationwide. I'm not buying into any of that, and I'm not buying into poll numbers. And as far as I know, the craziest people that I know, the farthest right wing, nobody wants to see a military intervention on this right now. That is just crazy that they would publish this and put polls out there again. Man. And with that, I'm going to leave you with this. A British teenager has been jailed for masterminding a cyber hacking business that carried out more than 1.7 million attacks on websites, including Sony and Microsoft, wreaking havoc worldwide. His name, Adam Mudd. He was 16 years old when he created the Titanium Stressor malware program, which lets users crash websites and computers by flooding them with data, DDoS attacks. The attacks were carried out against more than 650,000 websites, including websites like Minecraft, Xbox Live, TeamSpeak, a chat tool for gamers, right? Mudd, now 20 years old, developed the distributed denial of services software from his bedroom in Kings Langley, Hertfordshire. He earned the equivalent of more than $495,000 in dollars and bitcoins by selling the program to cybercriminals. Mudd, using the name The Mudd Family online, also carried out nearly 600 attacks himself against 181 victims. The old one 2014 attack on the West Hertfordshire College, where he studied, was so large it may have hit 70 nearby schools and universities, including the University of Cambridge. And with that, that concludes another night and another week right here on Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What a great conversation tonight. I got to thank the one and only Jon Rappoport. Thank you to Gregg Housh for coming in tonight and talking about Barrett Brown. And, of course, Stephen Huff, HuffParanormal.com. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamarian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LG3, Renee, Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldridge. Intro, Spaceboy, SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2017 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Everybody have a great weekend. Be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.